Right, after some struggle, I got all 4 wheels switched out, and now we are on to cleaning the interior. Now, I have already started working on the trunk. I've cleared out a lot of the mess, but there's still a lot left. So yeah, got to continue with all this, and I'm probably going to rip all of this out, clean it all, and I'll debate on whether I'm putting the carpet back in or not, depending on how it looks after I clean it. On another note, I do have this window coming in, as well as the headlights and corner lights, and I might also have the inner and outer signals coming as well, so I could probably zip tie those on until I get a bumper for it. And then I have some work to do with the radiator, and I'm going to paint the valve cover, and yeah. Alright, so the valve cover is off for painting. Now I've already done the primer as well as a first base coat. I might go in with the second one. Now, I didn't do a really good job of prep because this is just my daily, so I don't care that much. But I wanted to give a little neutral base to the engine bay because the previous owner did bright blue and bright red. So I feel like this needed a little neutral. So I went with the silver metallic by VHT. It is the same brand that I went with for my H22 that's going to be in the Accord. I really recommend. For the H22 I did gold, for this one I did the silver metallic. They both look really good so far. The gold one looks exponentially better, purely because I actually tried on that one. Again, this one, I don't care. Now, with that being said, with that valve cover off, I was able to get a good look at what the head actually looks like, and it actually looks really clean. It looks like there's almost zero oil buildup or anything really like burnt on there. It looks almost like a machine shop took care of it. So that's really good news. It looks really clean, and that means it was a good investment, because as long as it mechanically runs well, I don't care. Obviously, there's some cosmetic issues and electrical issues. Those I can take care of. As long as the engine looks good, I don't care. Alright, first layer of clear is done. Now, one of these rods fell on it, so there's uneven coating now because I had to respray a little bit. There's also a little scuff right there. Don't really care. Again, it's my daily. But yeah, this is how one layer of clear looks. It's already got a little bit of the shiny, so we're going to do 1 or 2 more coats and then call it good. Alright, got the second coat of clear on. I'm going to let it dry, and then we'll call it good and take off all the tapes and stuff. Now, I was going to shave off all of this so you could have like the bare Honda look, but I think I actually like this paint because it's silver, so it looks clean. You can see some obvious orange peel if you really look there, but again, I don't really care. I'm just gonna leave it at 2 coats. I only did 1 thing of sanding, so I didn't do proper prep either, but it's not a big deal to me. I just didn't want this a light blue anymore. Alright, so I took the housing out and I also painted it. Now, I didn't sand it, all I did was scuff it with a steel brush, so it's probably going to chip off, but I did not want any more blue paint on there, so I don't care if it's bare metal, I just don't want the blue paint. Alright, so over the weekend, me and my homies went and test drove the Prelude. Now, there were a few things that we noticed that were wrong. First of all, it overheated when we were putting it back in the driveway. It was completely fine the entire time. I had it on idle for a while, and we drove it for a little bit. But it was only just when we were getting back to the driveway that we realized it was overheating, and we realized that the coolant temperature sensor was broken. This plastic piece wasn't even here, so it was literally just these pins sticking out, meaning there was nothing for the connector to grab onto. So decided to get a new one of these, as well as the connector, because the previous owner used sealant to connect it to the sensor since the black part was broken. So yeah, got replacements for these, so that's gonna take care of the overheating issue, hopefully. It will at least give us an accurate reading of the temperatures so we can see if there's genuinely something wrong. Now, to move on to this, we noticed that the clutch felt a little funky, felt a little sticky. We went and looked in the engine bay and noticed that the boot was popped off and it was leaking. So, instead of replacing just one, we decided to get the slave and the master cylinders. So yeah, might as well get both of them out of the way and then be good with that. Now on to cosmetics. So, as you noticed, the driver's side mirror was not there, so I decided to just get these two since I'm going to be fixing up the Prelude completely, and it was cheaper to get both instead of just one. So I got the pair, and I'm going to fix them up, and yeah, they both have mirrors on them, so that's good. Now, because the car didn't come with the front end, I had to get myself some headlights, and I got these on eBay for 200 bucks for an OEM pair. This is great because a lot of the time it is 200 per headlight, and the fact that I got them for a pair is pretty decent. Alright, we are now 2 weeks into owning this car. Floor is currently jacked up, but the valve cover is a lot cleaner. The housing somewhat cleaner. I did mess up on this part. Did not let it dry all the way, which is fine. I don't care. I replaced the oil cap with the one that was on my Accord. We have plans to paint this, but for now I'm just focusing on the issues. So, like I was saying before, the car was overheating, so we replaced the switch because the previous owner broke the black plastic, which means this connector was just flimsy and just laying around. It was not giving a proper sender signal. So we replaced that, as well as the slave cylinder. We are going to also replace the master cylinder, but we did not get to that today. We're going to do that next weekend. So yeah, we got it on, as well as prepping it to bleed. We don't have a 9mm wrench right now, so we're going to bleed it next weekend. But yeah, another issue that we also fixed was the brake lights. So hold on. Alright, so there is a mess of wires in the way, but if we look at the brake pedal, you can see that there is a penny currently glued to the pedal, because this little section, it's the brake switch. When you push it in, so when you push it in, it's supposed to stop the signal for the brakes, or start the signal. So when it's released, the brakes turn on. When it's pushed in, they don't turn on. However, there was a hole through the pedal. So me and my homie, shout out Adam, we essentially super glued a penny to the brake pedal. But yeah, we got the brake light issue figured out. So before that, it was stuck on. The brake light was not turning off. Now the next issue I have is the turn signal's not working. So I'm going to replace those bulbs next weekend, and then we'll see if that fixes the issue. Forgot to mention, the homie hooked me up with a shift knob, although for some reason the threads are off, so I'm gonna have to figure out if I can fix that at all. If not, I'll just deal with it. And then, of course, while we have the whole underside of the dash out, as well as the head unit and radio, to try to figure out all these wiring issues, we realized that the shifter assembly is super corroded. So I'll probably do a little trick, like dip it in Coke or something like that, and get as much corrosion off as possible. And then I will probably end up putting it all back with a new boot on. Anyways, and then as far as the side mirror and the rear window go, I am currently playing a waiting game with the weather and waiting for the weather to turn nicer while I have a day off so I can actually replace the window and put a mirror in. But yeah, I picked up this canopy because I wasn't going to let a little rain stop me from fixing this car up to drive. Alright, so what I'm doing right now is getting the headlights ready to hopefully fit onto the Prelude. Now, upon looking at it further, I realized that only one of them came with the fitting that was needed, as well as one missing the screw and possibly the gasket. So, luckily I had a headlight left over from the Accord, and I'm going to use this one because it looks like it'll work, as well as one of these screws. And yeah. But yeah, when I was looking at this one was out of place. I was able to like move it around. You're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be fitted into this gasket, closed in there. You're only able to move it like this. You shouldn't be able to move it back and forth. So I already went ahead and took all of this off, put it where it needed to be, and put it back. Alright, so both the fittings are on both of them. This one's good. This one's good. They both have a good amount of play, not too much. I also realized, sorry, cat's in the way. I also realized that this one only had 1 out of 5 bolts. So I ended up taking all of them from the Accord's headlight assembly, and I put them all here. That's why they're all a little bit rusty from how much the Accord sat in the junkyard. But yeah, I was right. It does work. So yeah. Alright, so I took the back bumper off, and this is what it looks like. So there's a lot of rust and body damage. So I'm going to try to take all the Bondo off from the quarter panel. In the meantime, the previous owner decided to put screws in every part of the bumper because of that being bent. So there were 3 screws here, actually 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there was one right there. So yeah, I had to unscrew everything. Some of them were in Bondo, so I had to take my mallet and my screwdriver and really hammer it in to actually get it out. And then of course you can see where he Bondoed, so I'm gonna have to patch that over and fix all of this.